molecular biology. And today I'm going to talk to you about a nascent movement in the scientific field called DIY bio. So, like probably most of the talks tonight, this talk has its start in the internet and computer technology and the amazing effect that the flow of information and the ease of communication is having on our world. So really there's no more gatekeepers. If you're a photographer, you can throw your photos up on Flickr. If you're a writer, you can blog. If you make music or movies, you throw it up on YouTube and you can get feedback and deal directly with customers. Likewise, if you're a software developer, you can release your code online and you can turn it into an open source project and collaborate very easily. If you apply this philosophy to physical objects, you get the maker movement. So these are people who are forming communities online, sharing instructions, and making amazing things in makeshift labs and garages. But what about science? So right now, by and large, science is still the domain of large universities, corporations, and government. Scientists still rely on multi-million-dollar government grants. And to get these grants, you have to have a good publication history of peer-reviewed research. So it's still very much a walled garden. But really, it didn't always used to be this way. Some of the most amazing scientific discoveries in history have come from people just being passionate and being creative and tinkering and doing their own research in their own homes. So this leads us to the present day, when big science is still really the way that we do things in America, and it's worked out pretty well for us for the past 100 years or so. But now, as America hits harder economic times, science is suffering as well. NIH funding for science has pretty much been flatlining for the past 10 years. But really, if you adjust for inflation, and if you consider recent budget restrictions, the 2013 budget is actually about 22% lower than it was a decade ago. It's actually at the lowest point it's been since the year 2000. So that's especially bad news because we're graduating more new PhDs than ever before. And so all of these tenured professors are getting their grants renewed, but then there's no money left over to support young scientists at the beginning of their careers. So that leads us into the DIY bio movement. So all these societal trends, the free flow of information, ease of communication, they're all having a great impact on science. And it's leading people to leave the traditional science background. You're getting people who are coming together online and offline, forming communities and providing an infrastructure for communication and supporting publicly available research and publicly supported research. So how are these independent scientists getting funding for their research? Well, they're putting projects up on Kickstarter, and there are a number of science-focused crowdfunding websites such as Mycorrhiza, Petri Dish, and a few others that are popping up to support these independent scientists. DIY biologists are coming together and buying old equipment off of eBay, setting up makeshift laboratories in their garage, and they're also coming together and forming community workspaces where they'll share equipment and lab space in exchange for a monthly fee. So these are popping up across the country, especially on the coast. And for those procedures that aren't possible to perform in garages or workspaces, there's services online where you can actually outsource scientific procedures and then access those results online. So what kind of projects are these DIY biologists doing? They're actually pretty cutting edge when you think about it. So they're starting to dabble in what's so-called synthetic biology, where they're inserting synthetic genomic material into cells and reprogramming the cells, much like you would write new software for a computer. They're hacking 3D printing machines, so instead of printing plastic, they're printing living cells. So this is from a workspace in San Francisco called BioCurious, where they used glow-in-the-dark E. coli bacteria to print a little message. It says, "I heard BioCurious." And there's a project on Kickstarter right now that's trying to engineer a glow-in-the-dark plant. with the eventual goal of using these glow-in-the-dark plants to replace streetlights. So it's actually pretty much as close as literal green energy as you can get. So just today, this project crossed $400,000 raised on Kickstarter from an original goal of $65,000. So I think we need to start this community in Columbus. So Columbus has a wealth of smart, accomplished people, thanks to the University Ecosystem, big companies like Mattel, there's our burgeoning tech startup scene, and there's the maker community and the Columbus Idea Foundry. And Columbus is just full of passionate people who really want to make an impact on the world and put Columbus on the map. So I just want to leave today by saying that everyone should really be a scientist. And I don't mean that people should spend all of their days in the lab working on experiments, but I think